Hey guys, I'm Shyrshadi. Welcome to StarCraft Breaking the Barriers, Episode 13. Today we're going to be looking at a PvP in Diamond level. As usual, our first thing to look at is the focus for Diamond. Unfortunately, it is a sort of a broad focus because you're basically taking everything you've learned from Bronze through Platinum and you're trying to do all of it better. And this is where refinement becomes a key, when executing becomes key to advancing, because you just basically have to do everything better. You continue to improve your mechanics, your macro, your openers, literally everything. So going straight into the replay, brought to us by Zephyr Blue. And because it is a mirror matchup, we're going to look at a little bit of what Pizza did as well, but just as a conceptual situation, because the execution was not the greatest in what he's trying to do. I like the decisions he made, but how he executed was a little bit weird. So basically, these two have played each other on ladder a couple times this day, and are just joking about the fact they keep running into each other. Normal expansion timings are after 2 gateways and 2 stalkers, or 2 to 4 stalkers anyway, and sometimes even after a Stargate or a robotics facility. In this game, we're going to see a little bit of greed come out from Pizza. He went for 2 gases, a gateway, 2 gas, and he's actually going to take an expansion, but he cut probes at 17 to make this happen. He completely cut probes at 17 supply. He's just over here getting a full scout, so he knows he can get away with it. But he also opened a little bit normal so that he could get his gateway and his cybernetics core in case he needs to do something to punish a fast nexus or to counter something weird like a cannon rush, whatever. He's just being super active with his probe. Send it out after the pylon. Not necessary, but just to make sure you're not being cheesed, it's not horrible. One thing we saw Zephyr Blue do, although I blazed past it, is he's spending a lot of time scouting with his probes in his base. So he builds this gas, and he's going to send this probe into the natural to look for cannon rushes. He sends this probe into the corner to look for a cannon rush. Now, sending this probe into the main base, you can do this, you send it into the main base, and then go into the natural with the same probe, and you get here, you see there's nothing here, and as you're going this way, you'll see that whether or not there's actually a probe from your opponent in your main, and if he's not, you can just duck into the natural and scout, and maybe just follow around the probe that's here, because yeah, this is timing. You would expect a probe to get here for a cannon rush, right at 1 minute, so you want to find that probe and sort of just right-click on him and tail him, and make sure if he puts down a pylon, you know about it. But by having a second probe off mining, he's going to be delaying his build just a little bit, not a huge deal, but also you'll end up in situations where the reaction of, oh snap, there's a probe, I need to be paying attention to this probe, you'll see a lack of probe production right here. And so in just the reaction, he delayed his probe. He's getting a gateway down now. But you see, he had a little bit of extra money that he could have been building this probe before he started this gateway. So also another thing is he's already mining 3 in gas there, 2 in gas there. But you see how few probes he actually has in his minerals right now, because he has 2 probes, neither of which are mining. One probe sure going to scout, the other probe is just sitting here, literally not doing anything. And it's going to make it look like he wants to start a nexus. And there's 2 probes chasing this one around while another one goes to scout. And it's just a lot of lost mining in this situation. And the fact that he's already got extra probes in the gas means he's going to have a lot of gas and not a lot of minerals and stuff. He builds his cybernetics core, that's good. It's going to be faster than his opponent's because his opponent went for a nexus faster. He's going to pylon block this natural, which is very annoying, but not a horrible situation. And we see again, he's not building a probe. He's got money, he's got supply, but you don't see that probe coming out. Mining all this extra gas, and not going to be able to spend it for a minute. So we're going to speed things up just a little bit. We're going to see that basically the way you know that there is a missing probe somewhere in this process is when the cybernetics core finishes and your second pylon finishes, you should already be mining 3 on each gas and 16 on minerals so that you can start your units in your warp gate or your mothership core in your warp gate or whatever it is you want to do. This cybernetics core should time out with the rest of your probes being finished to mine. So he's 1 probe behind. which is, again, not horrible, but the idea is to have that full saturation plus this guy over here, so you can start your stuff. Now he's doing a good thing. He's starting his chrono boost. He's making another probe because he missed the other gas, and he's rallying it to his minerals. So he doesn't actually notice that he's missing a probe here. He's scouting over here, sees a completed nexus. He's been in the main base, sees a delayed gateway as well. And another thing, Pizza did the same thing. This is like a very Stargate-based opener because you're mining gas is super hard. Of course, you did delay probe production to get the nexus started, but in a normal situation, you would be able to put only 2 on minerals, 2 on gas while you finish out minerals, even though you started with a greedier nexus, because your gateway isn't finished and you can't actually spend all the money that you're making for gas. So, continuing on, 2 stalkers. He's going to go into the natural and see, okay, the probe got canceled. Cool. And honestly, I would say if you scout that fast of a nexus, it's entirely possible to, instead of making 2 units out of your gateways, just go ahead and drop a nexus, because you know if your opponent went that fast of a nexus, then you're not going to have to worry about significantly early pressure. That said, there was a pylon, so making the 2 stalkers makes sense. But if you don't get pylon block, you don't scout that pylon coming down to block your natural, then you want to go ahead and cancel these 2 stalkers or not make these stalkers and get your nexus. Another thing you could do is check and see if they actually finished the pylon with that probe that was chasing the other probe. He goes away. This one comes back and says, okay, he canceled it. I don't need to build I don't need to build stalkers before I build a nexus. Because 2 stalkers it's 125 minerals each, so watch me do math on recording. 250 minerals, so that's over half of the cost of a nexus. And I'm not through taking in caffeine today, so mental math on stream will take longer. And of course it's not on stream, but the rule still applies. So at this moment, even with a faster nexus, we see Pizza is actually behind in workers because he cut so many to save up 400 minerals for this nexus to start. So just not an ideal situation for him. And he's still missing a probe here. He doesn't have a probe in the natural just yet. But he finishes his mothership core, puts it on patrol. I love this, by the way. So mothership core, this is free, by the way. Mothership cores have a slow acceleration, so if you put them on patrol like this, when you select them and tell them to go somewhere, they're already moving at full speed. So you can redirect them and it'll make it faster for them to get where they need to be to overcharge. Not that we'll have to worry about this in a month, but still a good piece of information for now. Robotics Facility is the first tech of Zephyr Blue, and usually this means you're intending to play a little bit defensive or make a warp prism immediately and be aggressive. The really funny thing is it's harder to tell with a Robo first. With a Cybernetics Core first, a Twilight Council. See, lack of caffeine. Twilight Council first means you intend to put on aggression of some form, be it blink or glaives or charge. With the Robotics Facility, it's harder to tell what you're doing, so just as a note, if you see a Twilight Council first from your opponent, they intend to attack you at some point soon. Sooner rather than later, even. So the first 2 stalkers for Zephyr Blue moved across the map to scout, make sure he knows what's going on, possibly put on a little bit of pressure. He's going to see 1 stalker over here and be able to actually kill it, which is amazing. 1 stalker for free is amazing. Just straight up amazing. Get a lot of value out of it. And so he baits an overcharge as well, so Pizza having to play super defensive because he doesn't have warp gate and he's literally had 3 units on the map, and then he lost one of them. Zephyr Blue checking to see that Nexus is coming out. Twilight Council to follow up the Robotics Facility, and Immortal immediately on the way. So, Zephyr told me what he wanted to do in this game was kind of like a 2-base all-in because his opponent was kind of greedy. The way you're going to have to execute this is different than what we actually see in this game. Specifically because you're going for a charge all-in. You're getting Immortals, which is cool. Getting another Immortal. He's going to have a good Immortal count. He's already got a couple sentries so that he can scout. He's been pressuring out the front. Didn't lose any Stalkers so far. Really good. But what's going to happen is he cuts probes before he gets his gases. So when you're doing an all-in in a PvP, what that all-in usually looks like is Charge Lot Immortal Archon or a Blink Sentry Stalker or Adept, Immortal Stalker, Sentry, stuff like that. The reason you're looking for Archons or Adepts in the process is because you need to get past force fields. Force fields are going to make it easy for your army to get trapped, but an Archon is considered a massive unit, so it just hits a force field and it disappears. So having at least one Archon in your army that you can drop on force fields with a Warp Prism is going to be extremely beneficial. The thing about Adepts, if you get Glaives with your Adepts for an all-in, is they're very mobile, and you can shade Adepts into the main base, and you're going to force your opponent to either pull back one unit or a Mothership Core or something. It's going to force him to split his army, and he doesn't want to do that. He wants to have all of his army here at the front. The other option is warping into his main base, splitting off his army, pushing up into his natural, and force fielding the ramp and killing the natural, which is something that there's an opportunity to do later, but doesn't quite actually happen. Spoiler alert. But the idea is knowing what kind of army comp you want because of what attack you're going for. And we're going to see +1 coming out fairly soon because he's getting +1. He's getting 3 gateways. So when you're going for a 2-base all-in as a Protoss player against another Protoss, the way it looks is you're going to get I like Robo Forge into Twilight because your charge is going to be done a good bit before you're actually ready to attack. So you're chronoing Immortals, you're chronoing +1, and you just get charge whenever. Because you're already going for a timing attack, you don't need to worry about having a faster charge because you're not going to be having to defend. Your entire goal is to walk across the map and kill your opponent. So what you'll do is you'll get Robo and Forge, then a Twilight, and then 2 more gates, bringing your total up to 4. You don't want to go above 4 gates for right now, because you want money to go ahead and get these gases, to go ahead and get a Templar Archives, so that you can get a couple of Archons moving on. Because when your opponent gets charge, if your opponent has charge and you have charge, even if you have +1 isn't a huge difference unless you have Archons, because it'll make Archons be able to kill things in 1 less volley versus Adepts. And I believe the same is true for Zealots as well, because they're both listed as biological. So the +1 on the Archons is very useful. If you don't intend to get Archons with it, you can actually skip the Forge and hit a little bit faster with a few less Immortals. It'll end up looking like you end up skipping the gas here. So what you'll end up doing is making a Warp Prism before you make an Immortal, and you'll send it across the map, put 2 Adepts in it, drop a couple Adepts, just kill a couple probes. You're going to get an idea what he looks like, what his army looks like, rather. And then whenever you're ready to move across the map, you just A-click in front of his ramp, and your Warp Prism is already there. Drop the units into the main base as you start attacking into the natural. You're going to kill probes somewhere, be able to save those Adepts. You'll be able to come back and reinforce Warp Ins. Whatever. You can really split your opponent's army apart just by multitasking. But because we have a little bit of a delay here, he basically cuts probes because he doesn't intend to go into Archons, and that's actually going to hurt him. Going up to 6 gateways, total of 6. If you're going to be going for a 2-base all-in, you really do want to get 8 gateways because you're not going to be able to spend your money otherwise. Builds an Observer to make sure he's going to scout anything coming in. So he's really worried about being attacked while he's working on an all-in. If your goal is a 2-base all-in, you're going to have more production over an opponent who is going for a 3rd base because you're going up to 8 gateways before an expansion while they're going to want to take a 3rd base and then expand. So you're starting to move across the map now, but here's the deal. You're getting Blink in addition to your ground weapons. So you're intending to, instead of just a charge, you're going into Blink as well. So it looks like you're transitioning out of an all-in that hasn't happened yet. The weird thing about Protoss all-ins is they have transition points, but you're just hurting the effectiveness of what your all-in could look like. You're still building an Immortal, building a Warp Prism after you build an Immortal. This is actually fine, moving out as your Warp Prism's done. I was looking at the on production tab. He's building an Immortal, which is cool. So you're about to push across the map. You only have 6 gates, is one thing. The next thing is, you're about to take a 3rd base, and you haven't taken the gases on your natural. This is literally just hurting you. It's going to make your attack a lot weaker. It's going to make it easier for your opponent to keep up, because they don't have a 3rd base just yet. They don't actually have a lot of production. This guy has a lot of Zealots, and has only just started charge, so this is not ideal for Pizza either, because he's making a lot of units that aren't going to have a lot of effectiveness before charge. So instead of whipping in these 7 Zealots, or 9 Zealots rather, he could have gotten, let's see, 9 Zealots, 900 minerals, so that is 6 gateways that he could have built instead, and he could be up to 8 gateways already and have weapons available with his income to be able to stop attacks more easily. You see warping in at home before you attack because your warp prism is not actually quite there yet. See, actually you're looking to go straight into the main base with this. So what you end up doing with this army is you'll just kind of poke at the front, but you don't have any high ground vision. So having an observer over here, or a mothership core, whatever, is nice. And the observer's coming. It's just going to take a long time before it actually gets here, because you really want to be able to see what's up here. That's where the advantage of adepts can come in as well, because the shade provides the high ground vision, so you know what you're going to be getting yourself into before you actually attack. The other thing is this observer's position means you actually can be seen moving across the map with your units. So that's just an important thing to take note of. You might want to clear that before you attack. Just have a second observer that you make and leave at home, and then clear that observer, and then it stays with your mothership core in case you're going to be dealing with any kind of DT rush, etc. So at this point, there's enough minerals and gas that you can whip in an Archon to drop it on force fields, but you still haven't taken your gases here, and you're about to take a third base. And always, 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 in my mind, in PvP, these gases should go down before a third base, because you really do need the tech options of switching around. So you're going to go over here, and you're going to attack into this, and we're going to look at this from your vision. Taking your third, chronoing stuff, attacking into force fields. Fortunately, most of his army was doping out because he didn't have charge. And so, you're going to warp in. You start your Temple Archives now. You still haven't taken your gases. So, you're going to be hurting yourself as far as this transition goes. You already got Blink as well. That's not even going to be very useful. So, you're going to send units in here. Warp in a few more units. You see his army responding. Your army just sits here. You really need to be pushing in here when you see that. The next thing is you need to force field this ramp, so he can't respond. You're going to sit here, you're going to kill production, you're going to kill a Nexus, you're fighting into overcharge, not even focus firing the Stalkers or anything, so you lose a lot of army in this attack. He lost a lot as well, but there's no reason for you to have lost this much. You force field his ramp, you kill his Nexus, you back off, and you can literally do whatever you want for the rest of the game. Unless he goes like DTs and you're just completely unprepared. So you're finally making an Archon, you're starting to saturate your third base. Your natural is not saturated anymore, so you need to saturate that before you saturate that third base. You're whipping in more units, and you're going to take a little bit of a bad fight over here because he has Zealots attacking your Immortals, and you're going to lose a lot of army here just unnecessarily. He only pulls back because I don't actually know why he pulls back. I guess he's just afraid to continue to attack you. So you whip in stuff at home instead of committing to the attack. So there's a couple of mistakes made as far as engagements and leading up into that fight. You see the observer actually shimmering over your army. So I'll slow it down to normal speed so you guys can actually look at that. Except there it is. So you see this little tiny silhouette here. That is an observer. And you can see it whenever it moves fairly easily. So just note that you're being watched. So we're going to go back to the everyone view now. You're actually about to go back into the main base, which is good. Because at this point you need to do counter damage. This is one reason that whip prisms into the main bases are amazing. At the moment right now you're on extra workers over your opponent, which is good. He didn't make any workers to respond to that because his build has just been weird from the get-go, to be honest. But again, you're still mining less than efficiently on that natural base, and you have already pulled a probe off here. You're chronoing a building you're not using, so it could be very easily used to get +3 attack or armor or whatever. And your unit composition right now, 4 Zealots, 2 Immortals, 6 Stalkers. So you have Blink on your Stalkers, but the longer this game goes, the less value a Stalker is really going to contribute to the army, unless your opponent went Stargate. And so far you haven't seen anything that suggests he is. But you are seeing that he's doing a really good job defending his main base. He sees it coming, he responds fairly quickly. But notice also that his army is just basically one hotkey. He's not splitting anything. So while he's up here spawning into the main base, you shade a couple of depths back into here and kill a few probes. Just shade them back between these two mineral lines, hit the hold position, and kill workers while he's up here, and then he's either going to pull probes and you deny a lot of mining and you can just kill this pylon while you're on hold position, or he's going to have to warp in defensively or whatever, but it's going to force a reaction and he's going to lose probes in the process. I actually have this habit of always getting glaives, regardless of my games, just because Adept Harass versus Workers is amazing simply because of their mobility. You also don't have either Watchtower, so your map vision is just really limited. So just moving on, you're eventually going to be able to kill him just because he doesn't have economy. Unless you make a mistake, because you're already getting +3. He's on +2. He is getting +2 armor. Which isn't a big deal if he's going into shields and his icons. Armor is more beneficial if you have a charge slot count, which again is useful. So you're going to go in here, your immortal count is 4, your archon count is 6, you have a lot of charge slots, and he has a really bad engagement position here, but he's also already getting a 4th base. You lose your prism, and you fought into a concave there, but you have this huge charge lot weapon in his main. He actually has to recall to deal with this. So right now, honestly, your probe count is lower than his. You're still building workers. You just built another round of workers at 14 minutes because you didn't build workers earlier. So that's less than ideal. And I love this immortal count, by the way, but you need a lot of charge slots. And you lost your warp prism because you just kind of A-moved it into him. Your 4th base is coming down. You up in a ton of zealots and a couple high templars. Thing is, he's actually heading workers right now. So he also has a pylon up here. You just kind of allowed him to get back into this game. Now, what you want to do is you want to split your army. You actually want to split off a little bit of your army to attack into somewhere he isn't. He's actually taking a really bad fight here because he overcommitted pretty hard, and you have a big upgrade advantage rather. But if you don't kill him here, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble, and it's just a little bit of a harder game than it actually had to be. Because going back all the way up to the very beginning of this game, missing one probe, getting to the point where you don't get you don't get your gases on your natural base. Your build order is a little bit off. You delay your archons, hesitating to push into the natural when you pull his army back out of position, back into the main base to deal with your warp-ins. And if you force field off that ramp and then just kill his natural, you basically kill him. And he's going to be super behind for the rest of the game. If you force field this, he can't retreat. He can't run his probes away. He can't get down to his natural to kill you. Sure, he can overcharge your pylon, but that'll die pretty quickly with the immortal count you had going into this first attack. So it just comes down a little bit to initial build order and your decision making for the execution, which again is literally Diamond Protoss in a nutshell. It's all about your style. It's all about your build order, your execution of that build order, and your decision making of when to go into the natural and when not to. If you put units in his main base and then you attack up the natural, if you have an Archon, force fielding you won't matter because your Archon just pops the force fields and then you back out. You lose maybe a couple units, not a big deal, but he's losing probes in the main base. Or he pulls his entire army back to fight the probes in the main base and he doesn't have anything to defend his natural, or he splits off too much army to go into the natural to try to deal with it, and you take a really beneficial fight in the natural base. Because you can force field behind him, your Archon pops the force fields he's trying to drop, and then you just kill whatever little army he has here, and then just pick up in the main base and leave. You're going to be ahead regardless, because you have a warp prism, you have force fields, you have Archons to break force fields. That is why 2-base Protoss in a PvP is so strong, because if it's well executed, you really have to be playing against an opponent on a similar gateway count, or they just kind of die. He's on 3 gateways as you're about to attack him with 6. You should be able to kill him right now. He's got zealots and no charge. You have charge, you have +1 finishing, but you don't have any icons, so you are afraid of force fields, and rightly so. Force fields can cost you a game. You need those icons. I don't actually have a build order guide to give you to execute this because I'm not a 2-base all-in player. There are definitely some 2-base all-ins to use on the ladder, and there's an old school version of it that was the Adept style of Adept Immortal Archon. When you get +2 attack and just go kill your opponent, you get a 3rd base, you don't make any extra probes, you just transfer probes so you maintain a 3rd base economy. It's not as good, but again, Adepts are very mobile units, and being able to shade into your bases, killing workers off, for just a couple of Adepts, you cancel all the shades but 2, and suddenly you have a huge army at the front waiting, and he has to respond to the 2 adepts, so he dies. So there is a lot of information in this one. I do recommend looking over it in pieces, starting with, okay, do I build a robo and a forge because I want to go into +1, or do I skip the forge, get charge, early warp prism, move across the map, and do some harassment? Do I want to get a couple of immortals, 2 immortals or so, build a ton of gateways, and build a warp prism as I move out? How exactly do I want to execute this? Do I want to hit faster but with less tech, or do I want to have Archons moving into this to more or less secure the victory on this first push? Just a lot of little different decisions to make in order to make sure you can secure the win. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can see the next content that's coming up. I know this is a very delayed video. Supposed to have come out last week, but real life stuff got real, and I didn't have enough time to sit down and record the video. I've got a couple replay reviews that I'm going to be doing and releasing as well in the next couple days, so be on the lookout for that. Feel free as well to submit your own replays to me for analysis, or to be part of the Breaking the Barriers series. Shyrshadi sc2@gmail.com, and feel free to check out my social media links in the description below. Thanks, and have an awesome day.